hospital room was suffocatingly quiet, its sterile silence broken only by the faint hum of the air conditioner and the rhythmic ticking of the wall clock. Rohan Agarwal lay on the narrow bed, his hands trembling slightly, his breath shallow and uneven. Anxiety gripped his heart, tightening with each passing second as he waited for the doctor's explanation of the X-ray results. Dr. Ajay Kumar, a seasoned physician known throughout Nagpur, stood by the illuminated screen, his face a mixture of disbelief and concern. His eyes scanned the images again, searching for words. Slowly removing his glasses, he turned to face Rohan. His voice was heavy with compassion and regret as he spoke softly. "I'm sorry, Mr. Agarwal. I've never encountered anything quite like this." Rohan's heart skipped a beat. The doctor's tone suggested something terribly wrong, something beyond ordinary. His mind raced backward, flashing through memories of his past, each laughter, each insult, each quiet moment spent questioning why his stomach was so strangely shaped. All these memories converged now, demanding answers he'd long avoided seeking. "You've been living with an extremely rare condition," Dr. Kumar continued, his voice gentle yet grave. "We call it a mesenteric cyst. Normally they're small, easily treatable growths, but yours has grown to an unprecedented size. It's been expanding inside you all these years." Rohan stared blankly at the doctor. His whole life, he'd accepted this condition as just part of who he was. It never crossed his mind that it might be something dangerous, something harmful. His heart sank under the weight of realization. He had ignored his body's silent plea for help for decades. The doctor, sensing Rohan's confusion, clarified, "It's essentially a fluid-filled growth attached to your abdomen. Its expansion is now dangerously pressing against your vital organs. We must operate immediately. Every day we wait increases the risk significantly." The room seemed to tilt. Rohan clutched at the sheets, his knuckles whitening. Surgery? He had never imagined himself undergoing surgery, let alone for something he'd grown accustomed to living with. But beneath the shock, a spark of hope ignited. Perhaps this was the opportunity he never knew he needed, the chance to finally escape a life shadowed by ridicule and shame. For Rohan, his unusual stomach had always felt like a cruel joke from fate, branding him an outsider wherever he went. From his early childhood days, he could recall the sting of cruel words, the pointed fingers, the laughter at his expense. He'd learned to carry these wounds silently, burying them deep beneath layers of quiet acceptance. Yet here, in the cold reality of the hospital room, he realized just how deeply he'd allowed those wounds to shape his life. Dr. Kumar placed a comforting hand on Rohan's shoulder. "You've lived your whole life carrying a burden that wasn't yours to bear. But now you have the chance to rewrite your story, Rohan. The operation is risky, but it's your best and only real option." With the doctor's words ringing in his ears, Rohan took a deep, shaky breath and nodded. "Do what you need to do, doctor." Days leading up to the surgery were a whirlwind of anxiety and hope. His parents visited him daily, their aged faces etched with worry but offering unconditional support. His community, once the source of his pain, now came together in unexpected ways, sending messages of encouragement and praying for his recovery. The same neighbors who had whispered behind his back now visited, bringing flowers and apologies wrapped in shy smiles. On the day of the surgery, as the anesthesia slowly pulled him into unconsciousness, Rohan's mind drifted into the calm embrace of his farm, the golden fields, the soft rustle of crops swaying in the breeze. This image brought him comfort, a reminder that just like the earth he tended, he too could heal and begin anew. The operation was complex, stretching long hours into the day, testing even Dr. Kumar's steady hands and seasoned experience. The cyst, larger than any recorded in India, was meticulously removed. Its extraction left the entire surgical team astonished. Ron had been carrying the weight equivalent to a small child inside him for years. Recovery was gradual, marked by both pain and perseverance. Every day was a small triumph. His first steps without assistance, the first deep breath without pain, the first glance in the mirror at a man no longer defined by a swollen abdomen. His transformation was physical, but the deepest changes occurred within his spirit. With each passing day, Rohan regained more of himself, not just physically, but emotionally. His story spread rapidly, inspiring thousands across India. He became a quiet symbol of resilience, not because he sought fame, but because people saw in him a reflection of their own hidden struggles. Months later, when Rohan finally returned home, the entire village gathered to welcome him. No longer was he the subject of ridicule, but rather admiration and respect. But for Rohan, the real victory was the newfound peace he felt within himself. He had confronted the silent torment he'd carried for decades and emerged stronger, healthier, and most importantly, whole. Yet instead of anger or resentment, Rohan felt gratitude. Gratitude for a second chance, gratitude for the strength he'd discovered within, and gratitude for the community that had ultimately rallied around him. His scar served as a reminder not of pain but of his journey, of his courage to finally confront what he had avoided for so long. Eventually, Rohan returned to his farm with renewed purpose. He cultivated crops as carefully as he nurtured his own recovery, and soon his fields flourished like never before. He began sharing his story at local gatherings, quietly encouraging others to face their own hidden struggles and to listen to their body's silent messages. Years passed, and Rohan's farm became known not only for its produce, but as a place of healing. People from surrounding areas traveled there to hear his story, seek advice, and find comfort in his gentle wisdom. He would smile humbly, reminding them that strength wasn't in never facing adversity, but in finding courage when adversity finally arrived. Rohan Agarwal, the farmer from Nagpur who once wished only to be accepted, had found something far greater: self-acceptance and peace. His journey had not been easy, nor had it been painless. But in confronting his hidden burden, he'd finally found the purpose and identity he'd long searched for. And every evening, as he stood on the edge of his fields under the amber hues of sunset, Rohan whispered softly to himself, "Finally, I'm free."